Suppose I gave you this graph, and now I tell you something happens. Suppose I tell you that you're in the line of business and the government comes along and says, you know what I have to do to you? I'm sorry to tell you this, but I'm going to have to increase your license fee to exist in this industry. Okay, you're going to have to pay me $10,000 to continue to operate your restaurant in this area. Okay, now that is a classic fixed cost. It's a fee that I have to pay whether I sell one hamburger or 10,000 hamburgers. You could do it on our mayonnaise case. They could say that Champagne could impose a tax on them to be a manufacturer's fee of $100,000 to exist in this city and manufacture. They have to pay that whether they have one jar of mayonnaise or whether they have 100 million jars of mayonnaise. Okay, it's just one fee. So that's a classic fixed cost. Let's draw this out, and we'll go back to a curve that we're familiar with, an axis system where we're looking at total cost and total revenue. And our total cost curve is a curve that has a fixed cost component, and then it has a variable cost component on top, which allows me to get total cost. Okay, and we'll call this TC sub 0. And there's also a total revenue. The total revenue, of course, is a straight line. We know it's a straight line because, well, the firm is taking price as parametric. Okay, so the slope of that revenue function is just the price per unit that you sell it at. And given this, the firm can see that there's some initial output point that maximizes profits. But along comes this new tax from the city. It's a pure fixed cost. It's independent of the output. So all it's going to do is raise the fixed cost component to F0 plus the 10K extra. And that's going to cause this curve to shift up, but the slope is going to remain the same, and we're going to call this TC1. It's a complete vertical shift. None of the slopes changed. That's important to remember because that means there's no change in the marginal cost. The marginal cost is the slope of that total cost function. It's the same at any output point. It's just been vertically displaced. But back on our graph here, what's happened is that we had an original output point that was maximized for us, maximized profits for us, and it was a good world. You showed how that made positive profits. Now comes a tax, and what's the tax do? Well, the tax doesn't alter the marginal cost. We've already established that. But the tax definitely changes total cost. The average total cost includes average fixed cost, which is now higher because fixed costs have grown. So the average cost curve is going to go up, and we know, I don't know where it really is, I just know it's going to be U-shaped, and I know its minimum has to lie on the marginal cost curve. So the new one will be something like this. We'll call this ATC1. And in this world now, we know that profits are equal to quantity times the per unit markup. Well, the output hasn't changed because we know Q star is where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. But now the per unit markup is price minus average total cost. This is P0 minus ATC1. And of course, that number happens to be negative now because price is less than average total cost. And so if I were to take this horizontal quantity times this vertical markup, it would allow me to build an area of a rectangle. And this rectangle, in this case, would be what we call negative profits. You commonly would refer to this as a loss, and it is a loss. But we're just going to stick with the word profits and say sometimes they're positive and sometimes they're negative. Obviously, the firm hopes they're positive, but in this case, they're negative. And so we end by asking, well, what should this firm do? And, well, one answer you might say is, maybe the firm should get a higher price. Oh, not possible. The parameters of this exercise was that price was fixed. The firm has no ability to raise that price. You say, well, maybe the firm then should get out of the business. We're actually in the short run. And in the short run, we know one of the inputs, capital, is fixed. That firm's got brick and mortar. It's got its restaurant. What's it going to do? It's got its craft plant on the edge of town. What's it going to do? Okay, it's got that plant there. It could just go ahead and lock its doors, but it can't just go away overnight. This is a problem. So we're going to, the next time we come back, we're going to talk about what do you do in this situation.